And what brought me into this path was actually moving through a lot of imbalances that I felt in my body and recognizing that there was something that I was kind of holding on to in my own body, in my own mind, that was really blocking me from experiencing true love, true bliss, and living in a state of alignment and freedom. Started looking around me around the time that I had a spiritual awakening back in college, and started looking around and being like, wow, okay, like I'm not the only one that is experiencing this. There's so many people who are feeling the way I feel, and that's why we were all going to clubs in order to like drink a lot of alcohol and then feel free at that point. It wasn't like we were just living in that space. So there was something that the alcohol was kind of masking for us so that we could then feel free and clear, and we were like looking for these opportunities to just get really drunk and have fun. So it was essentially like we didn't have that sense of enjoyment within our own selves, and we were looking for something outside to provide us with an experience that we could then feel free and enjoy life from. And so then there was a point where I had this really profound spiritual awakening in the forest, and at that point I started having that experience of like all of my energy centers open and activated, and I felt so clear and alive. And that's around the time the name Jennergy came to me, because it felt like my higher self, the part of me that was free from what I later on realized was contractions of fear, shame, and guilt. And recognizing that we're all kind of like walking around hiding that at some point or in some way, or that's kind of what's stopping us in life. And when moving through that, any vibrations of fear, shame, and guilt, and not letting it stop us, then, which is just an illusion of the ego from what I ended up studying and learning and going into deep into like shadow work and everything to learn about later on. But at that time I was just like having these like profound experiences that were very different from like my normal operating like waking state. And I was like, wow, okay, there's something more here. So then I started going to more music festivals, and what was really activating me was dance. I was like, wow, I feel myself. I'm moving my energy, and I felt my divinity. I felt that's part of me that is one with Source, one with God. And through that, I was unlocking my body and unlocking my mind, and I could feel my energy started feeling really aligned and clear. And that's when I was able to like magnetize things into my reality, manifest really beautiful experiences in life. And it was when I was in that state of alignment as I was dancing in pleasure and joy and just expressing myself. But what was actually one of my biggest fears before that experience was actually dancing. I felt very ashamed of my expression. If I was moving sensually or sexually, I felt very ashamed of that. And I didn't want people to look at me. I had a fear of being seen. So there's all of these vibrations that were contracting me, and I could literally feel the contraction in my body. And my posture was more like this as opposed to just open and expanded, which is something I'm continuously working on, is to continue expanding in that space. And that's the work that I do, my own healing practice and supporting with others, which now I have this beautiful healing room and the temple space at our house to support others and do my own little meditation every night, self-healing practice that has been really supporting me in that. And it's great. I actually just got a message from someone today. It was like, hey, I'm really noticing like the conscious body work that you've been doing. I'm observing your body and seeing how different you look, and you look radiant and great, and it's really beautiful. Like, thank you for the work you do. I'm like, wow, like, thank you. Like, that was just a really beautiful confirmation to like keep going with this. And it's been a deep journey, because these mental patterns are not just a mental pattern that is just like a thought that's kind of really easy to release. It could be, but a lot of times it's connected with a holding pattern in the body. And so that's what's really difficult, is that it can be really difficult to move that and let go of that holding pattern, because the ego is so conditioned to holding on to that. Like, for example, if someone, got hurt when they were younger, whether it was a heartbreak, they might, be closed here, and their body is just kind of caved in, protecting that space. So not only are you having to rewire the mind, but you're also having to release the body, open up, and that might be working through certain muscles that have been in a position of contraction for a long time that then get to be released. And that energetic release is the healing, and that's the total healing of it all. Because we could say something in our mind and repeat something over and over again, but until we embody it, until we move it through, until that energy is like actually released in the body, you might have to cry it out while you're in a massage session or a self-healing session. And then you can really, you'll feel immediately, it releases the tension in the fascia, and then it can transform and come back into alignment. And that's how we really realign our spine. You look at babies, for example, when they're just newborns, very young children, before they have any mental patterns or programs that they're kind of, that their ego is like creating in life of like, oh, I don't want this, or I'm hurt by this, so I'm not going to do that, whatever. Their alignment and their posture is perfect. They squat perfectly. We can learn so much by toddlers just by their movement patterns, because they're not holding on to anything in their mind yet. They haven't developed that mental ability to create a holding pattern in their body and thus hold tension. They haven't had enough time to be sitting in a chair all day at school to develop tension in their hips or at work or things like that. So these things are pretty significant, because we think of it as just, oh, the body or whatever, but it's like, no, like that's our state of alignment. And so if we're holding on to these vibrations in our body that are contracting us out of fear, shame, guilt, grief, etc., and we're living in that, that's going to block the energy flow and block us from being healthy, from living in wholeness. And so if the energy's blocked, then you're not getting proper blood flow to the parts of your body. That's going to create pain, stagnation, and later on when that stays in the body, that's illness, disease, and that creates further and further things. It could be something psychosomatic that can be released like not easily, but like potentially easily, but it could be something you're really having to like work through. And that's why we see so many people with cancer, with autoimmune, with these things, and a lot of it is like diet, yes, because we have so much like toxins in our diet and our food. Like if you're eating at fast food restaurants or processed foods and everything, that's going to affect our health too. We also have to recognize that it's a balance of what we're putting in our body as like physical substance with food, water, drinks, sodas, anything like that, sugar, and what we're putting in with our thoughts or our fears, our beliefs. And it's all connected. It's not just one or the other. And so I believe in a very holistic approach, not just a one track, okay, shift your diet, that's going to fix everything. Shift your diet, also shift your mind, also shift your movement practice. There's many different elements to that. And so if you're just looking at it from one way, which I find a lot of people were like, this is the path that they're on, I'm thinking it's really more of a well-rounded approach, and really is bringing our life into a more recognizing that our life is a holistic being of everything. And so we have to connect that with everything that we do. And so it's creating a lot of shifts that for most people would be different, since our society doesn't really teach how to be truly healthy. You know, even in school, they're telling us this certain food group thing, pyramid, that when now looking at holistic health and everything, it's like, wow, we could have actually learned a lot more. They're telling us, yeah, do these exercises, but they're not really teaching us much about breath work, or even what's going on in our minds, or the traumas that are happening in school as they're teaching us all of this stuff. So there's so much more that we get to really expand on, and I think that's really coming from a sociological issue that we get to address in this society. So that's why I'm passionate about speaking on camera about these things, so that it reaches the right people to make these changes, as well as I'm doing that in my own life and for the clients I work with, and on my social media for people who follow me, and also for the transformational events that we host here and all around South Florida. Oh,